Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles in this video. She is recovering. She's not feeling very good. I think I gave her my crud, but she's not doing so hot. So we're going to talk about Glenn Beck. We're going to talk about Glenn Beck getting in trouble for attacking gamers. And, this shouldn't surprise anyone that's been paying attention. We've got, Glenn Beck attacking gamers. We've got Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire thinking that anime and animation is stupid and demonic. And, it feels like we're going back to the satanic panic. And I'm going to tell you something. Like, I know there are a lot of conservative or conservative-ish leaning nerds out there who are, glad that it seems like the pendulum's starting to swing back a little bit. I think if right-wingers take the White House, it's looking pretty much like it's in the bag at this point. If that happens, and we see a return to rampant conservatism, throughout the country or whatever, I think we're going to start seeing people turning on each other. And I think the first ones to get it are going to be the geeks, who were very useful during the quote-unquote culture wars, right? But then you're going to see that, my enemy of my enemy is my friend. But once your enemy is vanquished, and there was a common enemy to unite people, in the case of pop culture fandom, it was a lot of the activists and the quote-unquote wokies and all these people that were constantly causing drama and problems online, right? They've been minimized. I mean, over the last couple of years, it seems like a lot of these voices have been minimized. But I do believe that we have people like Glenn Beck and Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro and those guys glomming on to the nerd scene, and they will turn on us. That's just a hunch I have. It's already happening. They're going to turn on us because we're no longer useful. So just be prepared. There's going to be some weird stuff going down, in my opinion. Let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, no woohoos in this video. This is coming from Niche Gamer. Conservative pundit Glenn Beck bans daughters from dating gamers. So like you're not allowed to date gamers because they're immature. Now, I'm going to have to pull up a tweet from Geeky. She actually dated me partially because I played games and I was into Star Wars and we were in the nerd stuff, and that's why I love her and that's why we're still together. But he's not going to let his daughters date any of those greasy chuds. He's going to use them. He's going to use the chuds, right? But he's not going to let his daughters date them. Conservative radio host and owner of Blaze TV, Glenn Beck, has recently been causing controversy by making statements against gamers. Started in a previous interview with fellow conservative host Liz Wheeler. She's the one who said, that male gamers were undateable. And it was like the biggest ick ever, that women would not date gamers. After which Wheeler questioned him on his opinion on gamers. Beck readily agreed with Wheeler, saying that he has banned both of his daughters, one of whom is 18, from dating gamers. He went even further, saying, I wouldn't allow my daughter to date a man who collects figurines either, calling both hobbies equally weakening to what it means to be a man. So apparently we're all just supposed to sit around and smoke pipes and think about Rome. Is that what we're supposed to do? We're all supposed to be like, this is ridiculous. I'm telling you, if the election goes away, I think it's going to go. There's going to be, at first, I think that side is going to be very, very happy. And then they're going to start looking for people that don't quite fit in with their version of what they think the right or the conservative movement should be. We've seen it before. It happened in the 80s. We call it the satanic panic. And we're getting there because Matt Walsh thinks anime is satanic. With the initial interview getting ratioed on X, Beck continued making anti-gamer statements, comparing men who play games every day to women who are addicted to TikTok. Yes, if you play video games, it's as bad as a woman who's addicted to TikTok. What a boomer. He continued making disparaging statements on his radio show throughout the week about weak men who, in his view, were so obsessed with playing video games, they weren't noticing the people trying to plug everyone into a video game against their will. That's not completely untrue. I mean, it does feel like we're getting more and more plugged into a system, but like, dude, seriously. This is referring to a conspiracy theory that Zuckerberg and other elites in Silicon Valley are plotting to enwrap the world in a Ready Player One style simulation. Maybe we've been in it. Maybe that's why nothing makes sense now. Maybe we never actually made it out of the pandemic. I thought about this before. Like, what if the pandemic was like the beginning of like some bizarro timeline or the Matrix or whatever? You know, I don't actually believe that, of course. Glenn Beck's opposition of video games as a hobby have come as a surprise to new fans of his. Yeah, so this is what's interesting. Blaze TV, right? Isn't he associated with Ripiverse? I think in some capacity. I don't know for sure. I don't follow any of that drama. But I think that, again, my enemy of my enemy is my friend. And, you know, there's a common enemy. And we've seen a lot of these right-wing pundits glom on to pop culture because the culture wars have become talking points, right? I don't want to hear Ben Shapiro, of all people, explaining Star Wars. I just don't. It's like, dude, I don't believe you've ever watched Star Wars. This is a guy who's like, I was married at like 21 and had 18 kids or whatever the hell you know what I'm saying? It's like, that's what it means to be a man. Just pump out babies. And no, wait. That's what it means to be a man in 2024. Whole nother thing. Just strike that, reverse it. You know what I mean? Just have a bunch of kids. Have a bunch of kids. Work a job you hate. Come home. The wifey brings you your slippers and you think about Rome while smoking your pipe. That's what you're supposed to do. And then you go to bed at 7 o'clock at night because you don't want to use any electricity because you might be tempted to play some video games or something. Yeah, it said Beck's opposition of video games goes back a ways. It said old listeners to his radio program know this is nothing new. Glenn Beck's distrust of games goes back to 2008 when he slammed Grand Theft Auto 4 as violent propaganda. At that time, he accused leftists of trying to scapegoat guns for school shootings when it should be video games that are targeted by federal regulators instead. Wow, doesn't that sound familiar? It used to be the other side. Actually, no, it keeps flip-flopping. At first, it was the right. It was like, hey, D&D's satanic. Video games are satanic or addictive. Then it was the left. It was like, oh, my God, Mortal Kombat and Doom, they're so violent. We have to ban them or regulate them or something. And now we got the right going back to it. And I think we might see a return of the satanic panic. I'm just saying. I mean, it feels like the very loose, tenuous alliance between disenfranchised nerds and hardline right-wingers is going to come to an end here pretty damn quick, because we're going to see a line in the sand drawn. And basically what they've always wanted, the reason that they attack pop culture is because they don't like it at all. They think it's all stupid. You know, and we had people on the left that were using it just because they were activists and they wanted to use pop culture as a step stool, a talking point. And we got people on the right doing the same thing. It's like, man, nerds can't trust anybody, right? We can't trust anyone. 2014, Glenn Beck accused Watch Dogs of teaching kids how to hack due to the fact that you play a hacker in that game. Don't worry, Glenn Beck. I don't think anyone's going to mistake you for a hacker. Glenn Beck's criticism of violence in video games was echoed by former GOP House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick of Texas after the Dayton, Ohio shooting, with them proposing a ban on the sale of violent video games to teenagers. Beck wrapped up his thoughts on gamers by declaring that women who do date gamers are ignoring what nature intended the role of men to be. But due to woke girls defying nature, it's up to right-wing dads to ensure that their daughters don't date men who game or who collect figurines. Get fucked. That's Colonel Sanders. God, he's what a creep. Geeky said, I see Colonel Sanders is as salty as his chicken. In this house, I too collect, and I am the one usually buying the figurines for my husband. Yeah, this is actually true. Geeky has a pretty sizable vintage toy collection she's always adding to. And actually, she's the one who buys most of my stuff. Like when we first got married, money was tight, and I had a bunch of toys from when I was a kid that my parents shipped to us from California. And I took all that stuff and sold it on eBay and made a fortune because I had like everything. And I was like really OCD when I was a kid. Like all my G.I. Joes were in separate Ziploc bags with all their guns and their file cards and all that stuff. And like all my figures had weapons and everything. And everything was complete. And yeah, I made a ton of money. And then I collected off and on like Transformers and stuff. But mostly she buys me stuff. She buys me stuff. The kids buy me stuff. I don't buy a lot for myself. Every once in a while, there's something like really cool that I want, but I've got so much stuff. Like I've got piles of figures that are in the box, not because I want to keep them in sealed package, but because I am so busy, I do not have time to open them up. And it takes forever to open a damn toy these days. You know, it's like, it takes forever. A lot of plastic, a lot of wires, you know what I'm saying? But here's the original tweet. And yeah, we got some people chiming in here. George Alexopoulos, is that true? He doesn't need gamers like me to watch his shitty show then. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with that because I thought this guy was actually kind of somewhat involved with comics, but I don't know the full story on that. Colonel Sanders has a TV show, Mormons being Mormon. I don't know. I know some Mormons that aren't assholes like this. Dude is ancient. His daughter's got to be 40. This isn't a great loss. No, actually his one daughter's only 18. I'm going to ban my daughter from dating anyone that listens to Glenn Beck. Got Guyver2 here, says, do we know what his daughters look like? Are we missing out? John Douglas, good luck banging a hobby played by pretty much everyone under the age of 50. That is true. I've always wondered, like, what is going to happen when the first generation of gamers, which would include myself, because I grew up in the 80s, 90s. So I've seen it all. I mean, I was very, very young when the Atari 2600 came out. Actually, it came out before I was born, but it was still pretty popular, right, when I was younger. And I've seen everything. The arcades, rise of arcades, fall of arcades. So are they going to have games for my age when I'm like 60 or 70? Are they going to be like, yeah, these are boomer games. Like, we're going to keep making old man games. It seems like they're kind of doing that now because they keep making retro style games. I'm like, yeah, this is everything I want in a game. And then you look at the developer and you're like, oh yeah, it's because the developer is probably my age. He's probably in his 40s, you know. Eventually we're going to have like geriatric video games. We're going to have old folks playing Game Boys in the damn nursing home, listening to Nirvana, and you know what I'm saying? So yeah, to say that it's just a child's hobby is just stupid. Glenn Beck has always been a little bitch, says Homie Santo. Glenn Beck, don't be this guy, dude. We're literally waging our own war to remove the woke virus out of the gaming industry. Why would you cast stones at your own? This is not the way. Because you are useful. That's it. Why don't we team up with a lot of people? Why don't we? Because sometimes you make alliances to ensure that you have a short-term win. But I also know that at the end of it, you go back to being enemies, right? Or at least, you're not friends. And that's, I think, what's going to happen here. I think some of these people, not everybody, but I think people like Glenn Beck, and I think people like Matt Walsh are going to use disenfranchised, conservative-leaning nerds to, one, I think to source news for themselves because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So they're going to watch these other channels and be like, oh, this is what the quartering's talking about. This is what Nerdrotic's talking about. Okay, we're going to talk about that too because we need the views. But they're going to use them, try to glom onto their audience. And then when the coast is clear, when the war is won, when the woke mind virus is eliminated, then they're going to turn on the gamers. And they're going to turn on the anime fans. And they're going to turn on the nerds. Because you should be at home taking care of your 40 kids with your trad wife, smoking your pipe, and listening to Christian music on the old phonograph, with your dinner jacket on, thinking about Rome. That's what you're supposed to do if you're a man, right? It's ridiculous. So just be aware, guys. I think yeah, we're gonna hit another inflection point in all of this stuff where it almost feels like the satanic panic might come roaring back in another form. And like I said, gamers are used to it, geeks are used to it. We get it from all sides. We've gotten it from all sides our whole damn lives, right? We didn't expect it from the left, but it came from the left, and now I think it's going to come from the right again, especially if the right get complete power over everything. I think there's going to be a lot of infighting and a lot of demonizing of gamers from the other side too. So we're on our own, fam. That's how it is. That's how it's always been, right? I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later. Join the reef. Go to clownfish-.com. That's clownfish-.com. You will get exclusive access to podcasts and videos and comic strips and more, as well as merch discounts. Check it out. If you were a member, you could get this t-shirt, this dismal t-shirt, on our website. You'd get a 10% discount on that. You can also join in the community on clownfish-.com. Thank you so much for the support.